Saving up cash, generally in your bank account, it can be one of the most difficult things ever. Trust me, I've been there, I've tried it, it takes time. Once you actually get to that point where you've saved up a good amount, £10,000, maybe even 50, or even £100,000, what do you do with it? And if you just put it in your bank account as savings, or even cash under your mattress, you're not going to be getting anything coming back in return. In fact, your money is going to be depreciating because of inflation, which is currently around about 6 to 7% in the UK at the moment. Not only that, your cash just isn't earning interest, and therefore all that hard savings is literally depreciating over time, and you're getting less and less of that hard-earned money as time goes on. So having cash in the bank is not the answer. What is the answer is investment. An investment in property, as I said, can be the most safest and strongest type of investment you can have. And in this video, I want to touch on the best way to calculate your returns and why investing in property can give you such great returns. We're going to be looking at rental yield, and we're going to be looking at ROCE, return of capital employed. So welcome back everybody to my YouTube channel, Jason Davies here. So in this video, we're really going to be breaking down two key elements, rental yield and then ROCE. And the outcome is always a percentage. Can't even write properly. And it's really important to distinguish these two. Now, they can be both useful in different stages, but ultimately what one is going to be more important when it comes to putting your hard-earned money and understanding what's the best return. Because we already said that cash in the bank is not going to help you. It's not going to give you a return. How can I get the best possible return that's safe, and I know it's just something that's always passive and it's going to keep coming through? And that's in property. Now, you've probably heard of rental yield more than you have of ROCE. Just a quick one. So rental yield can be a great guide if you're comparing from property to property. But it's not really a great guide when you're comparing the amount of return you're getting from the initial investment that you put into the property. So what's the difference between the two? Let's look at rental yield first, because that's probably a good explanation in terms of leading into our ROCE and how they compare. So let's say, for example, you had a 100k property. It's not going to be 100k, it's probably going to be something that's 106 or something, but nice round numbers makes it easier. So 100k property, that's the purchase price, right? Now let's say from if we're looking at the gross, ultimately this is before any costs, then ultimately let's say from this investment I'm going to get rents roughly of around about 5,000 per year. Yeah. Okay, so very simply, your rental yield then is going to be 5,000 divided by the 100k property. And maths is okay, but I think that would be about 5%, obviously, times by 100 to get it as a percentage. Now, that will be your rental yield. Okay? The problem with that, as I said, is it only looks at the original purchase price. It's not really reflected in any way the cash that you've put into the investment in the first place. And that's the problem with rental yield, whereas return of capital employed is about your capital that you're putting into the property. And that can sometimes be a much better reflection. Now, am I saying that rental yield can't be used at all? No, of course. It can be a good comparer, or as long as other criteria are similar, of other properties based on the rent that you're getting back from month to month. But it isn't necessarily going to be a good indicator to know, is this a good investment? Now, there's a really good example to demonstrate why yield is not giving you the full story. If I had that same 100k property, right, but now as an investor, I consider the costs that are going to be going into this, okay, my net effect. So on that 100k property, we know that for an investment property, you're going to need to put at least 25% in loan to value. So you're going to be putting £25,000 in as your deposit. Right? So that's one of the costs. Then there's going to be other costs, at least 3,000 most likely for your stamp duty. You can read this at the end of the video you deserve an award. And then, of course, we'll put something like 1,500 for general, legal, etc. There'll be other costs, etc., but I'm just demonstrating. So that will come to 29,500, right? Not a whole number, but you get the point. So that will be your investment costs initially to make this property investment. Now, again, because the rental yield as a percentage is the, as I said, what you're getting, your rental income. Let's assume out of this property it is, as I said, 5,000 a year. Okay, it's going to be literally, as I said before, your rental income over a year divided by the purchase price. And that will give you a gross. That will be you can't even see that, but yeah, that will give you a gross rental yield, which again is 5%. But again, it's not considering the costs that are going in and ultimately the amount that you've invested in the first place. How does this compare to ROCE? So let's look at ROCE using the same example. Now, ROCE, can't even pronounce it. ROCE is a really great indicator to understand what return are you getting back from the cash that you put in, and how does that compare to everything else? You know, the money in your savings account or your stocks, whatever things like that. So it's really useful as an investor, as an indicator of what you're getting out compared to what you're putting in. Now, for the same example that I put it earlier with the 100k property, I'm not going to write it all out again, but I'm just saying, with a 100k property, you remember us saying that the rent, let's say hypothetically, we were going to get £5,000 gross per year, right? That's the income that I'm going to be getting from this investment. Well, it isn't, because it's gross. There's going to be a cost associated with that. You know, there's going to be the mortgage itself that you need to pay off. There's going to be potentially maintenance costs. There's going to be management fees, all of these things. So I worked out earlier what some of these could be, and our property price was 100k, but the amount we put in was 29,500, right? That was the amount of money that we got put in ourselves, you know, for our own cash. So instead of the fact that we're not going to necessarily get an income of 5,000 per year, if you take into account that you're going to have to deduct other expenses that I mentioned, actually you can at least say that this is going to be half. You're going to actually, let's say you actually get 2,500, right? Because you need to account for the mortgage, etc., etc. So that's what I'm getting per year. This is what I put in for the investment. So actually our ROCE is going to be something like 2,500 divided by that initial investment money. Okay? And if I do the maths, say that's 30,000, so that's 29,500, you're looking at around about 8 point something, 0.3%, I'm not sure if that's right, but it's going to be at least 8% return from the cash that you've put in. Okay, this is the cash you put in. This is the actual net amount that you're going to be getting, 2,500 coming in a year. That's what I put in, that's what I'm going to get each year. That is my return of cash or capital employed. Now guys, have a think about this number, 8.3%, and compare that to any returns you're getting from any other type of investment. And certainly if it's cash in the bank for a savings account, you're getting nowhere near 8.3% return. This is money coming in to your bank account every year as a net return based on what you've put in initially into the investment. 8.3%. So, and this is even before refinancing, by the way, because obviously it was a 100k property, you might refurbish it, you might increase the value of the property. Of course, property prices do increase over time through capital appreciation, and so therefore your ROCE is going to keep going up. It potentially could get into the teen levels. So that, as an indicator, looks like a really positive investment. Now, by looking at that alone, does that mean it's a good investment? Not necessarily. You need to make sure you look at the whole picture here. Is it the right area? We spoke about that in one of our other videos, looking at the track model. So that's key. But based on numbers as an indicator, that looks to me like a really, really good return on the money that I'm putting in. So guys, thanks very much for watching. Put in the comments your thoughts on rental yield and ROCE. Let me know if you've ever heard of ROCE, because rental yield tends to be a bit more of a popular term. Do you agree with what I'm saying, that ROCE provides a better picture, or do you disagree? And if so, why? Let us know, because as I said, there's great investors out there that use both, and I would encourage, of course, to use both indicators. But ROCE is great in terms of understanding what you're going to get in return based on the cash that you're putting in. And just remember, sometimes it's ROCE, or you might have heard of return of investment, ROI, but in essence, they're the same thing in property. So yeah, let us know, and check out some of our other videos as well, where we talk about the track method of finding the best area and location for your investment. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.